I had the idea of it would be quite nice to have a history of Quakers in Nelson, and my idea was quite a simple couple of pictures, but I talked to Lizzie about it and it sort of took off and flew away, and Lizzie has spent hours and hours and hours of research about Quakers, and especially Quakers in Nelson, and we decided to start off with the origins of Quakerism in 1652 in England. And so she's made this roundel with historical stories in it. For example, George Fox, it looms large, and in his big hat there are some of the first women Quakers and some of the men. And in the brim of his hat is one of the martyrs who was tortured and died. And on the other side is a little cameo of Mary Dyer, who went to America to help people there and was so annoyed the people because she was a dissenter, she didn't agree with the religion that they were practicing, that she was eventually hanged. And so the whole tableau is full of such little references, and I've done some of it, and Jan has made a lovely job of the letters.
So just to show you what Pat was explaining, here's George Fox, and down here being led with a drum and a crowd around her is Mary Dyer. And then I took it away and used a couple of different stitches to do the lettering. So first of all I had some instruction and did some practice. We've got origins and simplicity written out here, and we tried out several different stitches. In the end I've mainly used Holbein stitch, which is just going up stitch, stitch, stitch and then going back to fill the gaps, and back stitch, but there's a big capital T there, so I've filled that out a little more by using satin stitch. And yes, it was a bit of a challenge doing some of the smaller letters, but thankfully Pat had done these really tiny ones, so I've done the bigger blue ones. And Christine is going to do the lines around the letters.
Yes. So I'm not clever enough to do anything other than a curved line. So that's probably the last thing to be done on this roundel.
Yes, you'll be finishing it for us.
The lines around the lettering. So
and we'll probably do a lot of it in Quaker stitch.
Yes, I have practiced Quaker stitch.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool that there is a Quaker stitch.
Actually, yes, it was invented by a Quaker.
Yes. So you come up through the middle of the stitch and along, and then back up through the middle of the stitch and along.
It's a combination of stem and split stitch.
Right.
Which gives her a good raised edge, so it will show up on that band that you're doing.
Right. Excellent.
Are you helping with the next two roundels as well?
I hope so.
I have to keep using this perfected lettering.
I'm sure there'll be some straight lines.
Yes.
And Mari and Lawrence and Maggie from near Murchison, they've all been practicing. It is quite a good idea to do the waxing.
Right.
Even with the silk?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Could you explain what that thing is again, Jan?
This one, it contains wax, and you just run the thread through it, and it just smooths the thread off, because as you're going up and down through the cloth, the thread gets a little bit fluffy.
This was a windflower or wood anemone, which a little girl used to take into the prisoners' And this is Lancaster jail, where a lot of them were imprisoned and very badly treated. And this is probably the church where Fox was christened. And we've got the font there, because he was very much against fonts. And this is Quakers meeting under the tree outside the church.
Oh, it is too. It's tiny.
And the feather with which he wrote. It's just Margaret Fell, and her husband was a judge, and they were well off, and so she was a help to the movement and sort of set it on a solid base. And Judge Fell didn't actually join them, but he would sit and listen to what was going on with the door open.
Is that him down there?
No, that's Charles II, to whom Margaret Fell took the peace notice.
Okay. So
and
Judge
that
Fell
is the house where they lived.
So Judge Fell kind of didn't. He let it continue in some ways.
He sort of encouraged it.
Yeah, subtly.
Yes, he was very helpful to them all and supported his wife. Lizzie wants the fern frond. It's an important part of the picture, the Maori influence, and she wants it highlighted. And it's been very difficult to do it with different colours, so we're going to try it with a variegated thread. See if that will work. And this is the picture that we work from. And the tui and the thrush, the indigenous and the immigrant. And that goes through it with native flowers and brought-in flowers and so on. The important thing is tension, that you don't put it tight 1 minute, loose the next, and always put it either above or else below. Doesn't matter which, as long as you keep it the same.
Because it's going to overlap, isn't it?
Yes, and it will show. It looks like a crooked. That's for the outside, for this outside bit. And then there's silky stuff to go inside it.
So you kind of outline it and then do a line just inside it?
Yes.
So that's the back, is it? Because I've got the
Yes,
knot.
yes. It's called wasting a stitch. And then you come up, where did you go down? There. Come up about there.
Okay. Is it too far?
Might be one thread too far.
Got to get it right. Yeah, that last one's still a bit loose.
I think you're ready to start on the actual thing. 2 years since we started that project.
How many hours would you say have gone into it?
I wouldn't like to even guess. I'm making wings for the bees. There are 2 bees on there now, and each wing takes 40 minutes, and they're a centimetre long. Yes.
40 minutes for a bee's wing.
Yes. And the tui would have been weeks, certainly, of work. Because there's experiment as well. And then going, not only doing the colours, but then going over and emphasising them.
Yes.
And then the white feathers took a long time to work out, because most of the threads want to curve. They won't hold a curve. They wiggle, you know. And eventually I found that machine sewing thread was stiff enough so that I could bring it out at one place, curl it round, and then with another thread just catch it so it stayed as a semicircle. Lizzie's work really is the thing that she does such beautiful drawings, and than just trying to keep true to what she's done. And Margaret Ford did the thrush, which I think is equally good. She was coming in every now and then, and we'd have a cup of tea and a chat, and she'd do a bit more thrush.
Okay.
And actually she took a little hoop with the same material in and practiced at home until she felt she could manage it. That's what most of us are doing. This is one of the practice pieces. Before we put anything onto the main roundel, we make sure we know how to do it.
If you counted in the hours of practice, as well as the hours of actual embroidery, you'd probably get double the 40 minutes for a bee's wing, wouldn't you?
Yes, because often the practice and working out, it doesn't work out first time, so you do something else, trial and error. That was my first thought about the bee, but it's too big and heavy, so that's abandoned, and this is the new idea. It's called turkey stitch. And you start off with loops like that, which you put a little knot in to hold down so they don't come out when you cut it. There are 2 bees, so that means 8 wings. The wires will go through the material and be fastened behind so that the wing will stand out. This is the working drawing with notes about everything that's on there. This will go into a journal that you can actually hold in your hand. Lizzie has kept on adding bits and bobs. Last time you came, the Chatham Island Forget-Me-Not wasn't part of it, and the Ko-Fi wasn't part of it, and the bee wasn't there. Doesn't matter if there's a bit of material left, does it?
How did you sew the wires in?
Sorry?
How did you sew the wires in?
Overstitching.
Just overstitching, right. I'm going to leave a wee edge then. Right. I put it in through there.
The wings are made of organza
Yes.
and fine wire.
Have you stiffened them with anything?
No, they were stiff. I think
Was that organza ribbon?
Yeah.
Now wait a minute, that's not right. What's happened? Has it turned over? I think it's turned over. Right. Let's sit it like that and sit that one like that. And I think actually I am going to put
There are some tiny needles there.
yeah, okay. So all I'm going to do is just sew these wires in, and then I'll double them back on themselves once all of them are done.
Never go quite where you want.
No, it doesn't, but that's all right.
And in memory of Theodore Rigg, Lizzie now wants to put in an apple and some soil. He worked for the Cawthron Institute, he became the director. But prior to that, he did a lot of experimenting in agricultural sciences and discovered, for example, that the soil was missing in various elements, which meant that apples wouldn't grow properly, and sheep had a sort of wasting disease because of this lack of a mineral in the soil. So he's quite famous for that.
So an apple go in on the embroidery.
Yes, we're negotiating where it'll go. All finished. Great relief all round. And I think Lizzie's pretty pleased with it. And most people seem to think it's okay. The website will have 19 touch points on this one. So you touch something like perhaps blackberries and it will tell you why they're there.
Yes, that's a lovely vision. A melding of the old technology with the new technology.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Yeah.